Let's get one thing straight, $45,000. That's how much those HOA vultures billed me after they bulldozed my family's lake mansion. No warning, no hearing, no mercy. I'm talking about 3 generations of memories gone in the blink of an eye. Picture this. I come home from deployment in Eastern Europe, still running on army time, and where my grandfather's old fishing retreat used to stand, there's nothing but a pile of broken concrete and busted glass. My son's favorite fishing spot, buried under rubble. All our childhood photos crushed into the dirt like none of it ever mattered. Walking through the wreckage felt just like Kandahar after a blast glass crunching under my boots, every muscle-tense trigger finger twitching out of habit. They must have thought a deployed soldier wouldn't have the fight left to push back. Turns out that was their first big mistake. Because see, Grandpa didn't just leave me a house. He left me the original land deeds. Every line, every corner measured down to the inch. And I was about to deliver the sweetest counterattack those HOA Karens had ever seen. But let's back up, because you gotta know who you're dealing with. Name's Colonel Jake Thornfield. Army Corps of Engineers, 28 years, 2 wars, 52 years old. Still got a few fight songs left in me. That mansion wasn't just some house on a lake. Grandpa built it in 1950, right after World War II. He needed somewhere to fish, to heal. 3 generations of Thornfield men. Yeah. Even after my marriage went up in flames, learned to cast a line off that weathered dock. The lake wasn't just nice. It kept me anchored, helped me manage the ghosts from Afghanistan. My son's in California now, living with his mom, but our annual ritual was sacred. We'd come out here, build fixed fish, learn patience and precision just like Grandpa taught me out in that creaky old workshop behind the house. Grandpa's railroad surveying tools are still there, brass, all worn smooth. He always said, measure twice, cut once, and always know exactly where you stand. Smart man. Wish he could see what they did to his place. Now let me introduce the villain, Kendall Westbrook. 38 HOA president, luxury realtor, drives a white Range Rover like she's on safari, only the only wild animals around here are the ones she's hunting. She always looked runway ready, even for a run to Kroger hair so perfect, you'd think she had a wind machine following her. Her office wall was covered in sold signs from million-dollar lake houses, and she had a talent for sniffing out military families and blue-collar folks, hitting them with surprise violations. Her perfume couldn't quite cover the stench of corruption, though. You'd know trouble was brewing every time you heard her clicking those manicured nails on the table during HOA meetings. Set my teeth on edge more than incoming mortar fire ever did. So while I'm over in Europe, Kendall calls this emergency architectural review. Funny how emergencies only happen when the owner's 8,000 miles away serving his country. According to the meeting minutes, some new waterfront harmony standards got rammed through my proxy vote, just vanished, mysteriously lost in the mail. Demolition notice, mailed to my military address overseas, arrived 3 days after the house was already a memory. Neighbors say Kendall personally supervised the bulldozers snapping pictures for her so-called compliance records. Yeah, right. She wanted them for her development portfolio, because here's the twist. Kendall's real plan was simple and evil. She wanted my 5 acres of prime lakefront to carve into 8 luxury lots, over $3 million in profit. But first she needed the obstacle out of the way, me and 70 years of Thornfield history. I can still remember the feel of Grandpa's old survey compass in my hand, digging through his footlocker for insurance documents, slowly realizing this wasn't about architectural standards or community harmony. This was about money power and a developer who thought she could steamroll a soldier who wasn't even home to fight. Little did she know, I was trained to handle pressure, and I was about to survey the situation with military precision. But first there was that $45,000 bill sitting atop the rubble of what used to be my kitchen. 3 days after I found out what happened, Kendall shows up in her Range Rover window, down just enough to pass me the invoice and keep her AC running. Colonel Thornfield. I'm sure you understand we had to act quickly for safety reasons. She purrs, all fake sympathy. Every penny itemized bulldozers, dump trucks, hazardous waste from Grandpa's old workshop, plus $500 a day in cleanup fees, compounding until the lot was in compliance. And since I was now living in a camping trailer on my own land, she hit me with temporary structure violations too. That's when the pressure really started to mount. Friends who used to wave now buried their faces in their phones. The smell of backyard BBQs drifted over, but the invites dried up. My insurance company stalled, asking for demolition permits that didn't exist when I explained that. The adjuster laughed. "Sir, you can't demolish a house without permits. Someone filed them. Only nobody had, and that someone was about to learn why you never ever play games with Army paperwork." But the lowest moment came during a call with my son. Some kids posted about me online, called me the military guy who trashed the neighborhood. Watching my boy try to defend me without understanding what was happening broke something inside me I thought was long since armored over. But you know what military training teaches you? Gather intel before you strike back. So I called an emergency HOA meeting. Sat across from Kendall as she nervously tapped her nails. This time she was the one sweating. I laid out my questions. Every one, like an artillery round. Why was the demolition scheduled right before my return? Why no environmental studies? Why block the appeals process? Every answer documented, every boundary measured with Grandpa's compass, every conversation recorded. I started mapping neighbor traffic with the same skills that kept me alive in Kandahar. When my insurance company finally admitted there were no permits on file, I filed a fraud complaint. That's when the first twist landed. The investigator called voice tight. "Colonel, your HOA president never filed proper demolition permits, no safety inspections, no legal notifications. The demolition was totally illegal." And get this, Kendall's done this before. Turns out she had a pattern: create a fake emergency, wait till the owner's gone, then move in for the kill. Demolition permits aren't just red tape, they're legal shields. Without them, bulldozing someone's house is criminal destruction of property. Suddenly I realized this wasn't just my fight. Military families get targeted because we're gone, we're vulnerable. But Kendall made one mistake, thinking breaking my house would break me. She'd just given a combat engineer a new problem to solve. A couple weeks later, she made her next move: hit me with environmental setback violations, $1,000 daily fines unless I accepted her buyout offer, $400,000 for land worth over $1 million. Same day, she's already listed my property with developers' future luxury subdivision opportunity. She was selling my land out from under me, breathing in that Georgia honeysuckle air like it was hers. My bank started talking foreclosure. My ex called from California, voice tight. "Jake, I won't let our son visit if this HOA mess keeps up. Fix it." The hits just kept coming. But see, military engineers were taught to find weaknesses under pressure. So I called Marcus, an Army buddy turned civilian surveyor. "You need a professional survey," he said. "Something stinks here." Marcus drove down with GPS equipment, measured everything to the centimeter. Meanwhile, I set up security cameras around the whole property, documenting every community facility user. And it was wild, the same neighbors who ghosted me used my land every day for the boat launch. Even Kendall's Range Rover showed up, parked square on what looked more and more like my private land. I filed records requests, HOA emails, meeting minutes, financials. And what I found would make any combat vet's paranoia look optimistic. Kendall's company took consulting fees from buyers interested in my property. She was pre-selling land she didn't own. Then Marcus called Jake. "Sit down. Your property line doesn't match the HOA's maps at all. The original deed shows you own 200 more feet of lakefront, including the community's beach access, the boat ramp, and parking that 60 homes use." That night, realization washed over me. My family had been painted as the villain, but all along the HOA had been trespassing on our land. Marcus explained, "Using someone's land for years doesn't make it yours. That's just trespassing with a time limit." Kendall wasn't just after money, she was after power, and she'd been pulling it off with smoke mirrors and a whole lot of nerve. So when Kendall installed a locked gate across my driveway, claiming it was community road maintenance, it wasn't just inconvenient, it was psychological warfare. No access for male emergency vehicles, nothing. I started documenting every day, every angle with military precision. Even brought in a pro surveyor with GPS gear. Turns out every community amenity, the boat ramp, the dock, the parking lot, was on my land. I filed formal trespassing complaints. Put up military personnel only signs. The neighborhood went from friendly to panicked in a hurry. And then twist number 2. My grandfather's original deed turned up tucked away in an old waterproof pouch. The boundaries, handwritten in that careful script railroad engineers use, matched Marcus's survey exactly. Everything the community depended on, every public lake access, was rightfully ours. And here's what saved us: federal law protects deployed service members from losing property rights. Kendall had picked the one target protected by law. Now I wasn't the victim anymore. I was the landlord of the entire community's lake access. If I cut them off, their homes would lose tens of thousands in value overnight. The leverage was staggering. I brought in a contractor buddy, hydraulic barriers, the kind that stop Humvees installed under the road. With a tap on my phone, I could lock the whole community out. The timing was beautiful. The annual Lake Days Festival, 60 families, all planning to use my beach. As cars poured in, I watched from the hill, phone in hand, drone footage rolling. When the parking lot filled up, I hit the button. Barriers shot up, blocking every exit. Folks panicked, honking horns, kids asking why they couldn't go home. News crews arrived, caught the whole thing on live TV. I grabbed the mic, standing in front of everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, you're on my land. My grandfather homesteaded this property in 1947. Your HOA president destroyed my family's home, charged you illegal fees, and tried to steal our legacy. The crowd went dead silent, except Kendall, who grabbed the mic, voice shaking, and basically confessed on camera to adjusting property lines for community benefit. Sheriffs showed up, arrested her for conspiracy and fraud. Developers bailed. HOA board members resigned on the spot. The news hammered it home. Military family defrauded by their own HOA, and the whole scheme collapsing live at Lake Days. Within days, the neighborhood changed. Emergency HOA meetings packed wall-to-wall, folks demanding answers. The county declared all HOA actions on my property illegal. Kendall was hit with federal charges. Her real estate license suspended, her face on every evening newscast. The insurance company paid up big. But the real win: the community came together, settled out of court for retroactive land use fees. We signed a proper easement, $200 a month per household, legally recorded. No more secrets, no more theft. I rebuilt the mansion this time with community space for gatherings and a veteran support program in Grandpa's name. Established a scholarship fund for military kids. The new HOA board has veteran reps, mandatory transparency. My son visits every month now, learning surveying with Grandpa's brass compass. There's a memorial room, equipment, service records, thank you notes from neighbors who finally understood. Here's what all this taught me: sometimes you got to stand up to systems that seem too big, too corrupt, too connected. You don't just defend property, you defend legacy, family, justice. And every now and then you get to see karma roll through steel barriers and all and set things right. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Where's the line between authority and abuse? When does a community become a mob? And what would you do if it happened to you? So, let's hear it. Ever tangled with an HOA or stood up to power when nobody else would? Drop your story, your state, your thoughts about justice down below. Let's get the real conversation started.